Member for an opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for holding the formal hearing on the development of new Water Resources Development Act for 2018. Let me first start by congratulating the chairman of the committee, Mr. Schuster, for his efforts to return to Congress the practice of approving a new Water Resource Development Act every 2 years. This, combined with significant project delivery changes within the Corps itself, has started to break the logjam for communities to benefit from the expertise of our nation's premier water resource agency, the Army Corps of Engineers. Yes, many challenges remain, but I'm hopeful that we will continue to improve and expand the Corps' ability to address water-related infrastructure challenges faced by each of our communities. And today's hearing highlights two of the challenges. How can local communities afford to pay for necessary navigation, flood control, water supply, and environmental recreation projects, and who gets to decide what projects are to be funded? On the latter point, I'm pleased that the President has opened the discussion on eliminating the moratorium on congressionally directed spending requests. This moratorium did not curtail spending, nor did it increase transparency. It simply transferred decision-making authority from locally elected individuals to executive branch employees in Washington, D.C. Like you, my constituents elected me to be their voice in Congress, and I know better what my communities need than the head of OMB. When this committee, under former Chairman Overstar, moved a bill in congressionally directed projects request, we did so in the light of day, with members' names associated with the request. Today, when similar decisions on project funding are made at the Corps, there's no transparency on how those decisions are made. I welcome continued discussions on the point and how we can restore greater local control and, of course, more transparency into funding decisions that we have today. On the issue of funding, we know that our communities constantly struggle to afford critical infrastructure investments, including water-related infrastructure, to address their local needs. Yet, year after year, Congress fails to adequately help our communities with their critical infrastructure investments, in essence, telling our communities, you're on your own. This lack of predictability and sufficient infrastructure funding is the lead reason why projects take so long to complete. In fact, December 2016, the U.S. Department of Treasury released a commissioned report that concluded a lack of public funding is by far the most common factor hindering the completion of transportation and water infrastructure needs, affecting 39 of the 40 projects reviewed. I ask unanimous consent that an executive summary of this report be included in today's hearing.
Without objection.
Today, we will discuss alternative project delivery approaches, presumably under the guise that these alternative approaches will result in a great number of projects being constructed without a significant increase in federal funding. We will also discuss the option of public-private partnerships as one of these alternative project delivery approaches. I welcome the discussion because I suspect that P3s will make up a significant portion of the President's forthcoming infrastructure plan. However, a good starting point for the discussion picks up the work that this committee already done in a special panel on public-private partnerships in 2014. I highlight one of the points of the panel's final report. We concluded that, and I quote, regardless of the method of delivery or the source of financing, much the cost of infrastructure projects are borne by the public. There is no free lunch. Why is it relevant? Because there appears to be a widespread misperception that public-private partnerships increase access to financing available to local communities. Simply not the case. There is not an infrastructure gap in this country due to lack of access to financing. This is an infrastructure gap because state governments are constrained by the lack of revenues needed to pay for the investment, and public-private partnerships do not alone solve the problem. Public-private partnerships are indeed a good tool. Again, it's simply a tool like many other financing tools that can be used to help finance infrastructure investment. Some of these tools work for certain types of communities, others do not. Yet it is incumbent that local communities evaluate potential trade-offs in using various methods to finance their local needs. Similarly, if the President is going to make the use of P3s as another part of the infrastructure plan, Congress must undertake a similar analysis of potential trade-offs. These may include the consequences of blocking off future appropriation to repay private lenders or allowing other mechanisms such as new tolling tax or taxing authority to repay the cost of financing provided private entity, by the private entity. Again, there is no free lunch. I welcome our initiation of this broader discussion and look forward to hearing from all our witnesses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.